Happy July 4th. It is July 4th today, and I would like to say happy, I'm going to get it wrong. I guess it's happy Independence Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July. I apologize. Happy 4th of July to all our American friends out there. Sorry, I just read a devotional. It was actually, my devotional was on the Joel 3, verse 19, and it was talked about the American Revolution. So that's why Independence Day was actually in my head. But I'm not here to talk about Independence Day, Memorial Day, or 4th of July, although I wish our American neighbors happy 4th of July, even though there's a lot of animosity against our American neighbors from Canada because of the tariffs and all of the political situations going on with Donald Trump. I don't want to talk about that either. There is something I do want to talk about, Canada Day. We celebrated Canada Day a few days ago on Wednesday, which is odd because sometimes then we'll take off the holidays the rest of the week or whatever. Canada Day, I was at the ROM, I was downtown. It was so very hot, and it's been so very hot. For myself, I do have medical issues in the sense that with the medication that I'm taking, plus I've had high blood pressure issues, that being out back in 2013 in November, I suffered a mild heart attack. So back then, I take up the pressure pill, so I need to watch being outside with my medication, like anybody does when it's this hot weather. I got online, and I just love museums, and I love culture, and I love everything like that. So I was online, and I received regular newsletters from the Royal Ontario Museum, and I've never been up until Canada Day. So I went on Canada Day, I got a free ticket, and I went to the Royal Ontario Museum. That's a cheetah, it's not. And I went there. I saw all the wonderful exhibits. I plan on going back. If you saw my Facebook, there was a lot from taking some pictures when I saw the armor, the inception of armor from the 1400s up to the 1600s, 1700s, and the different swords and everything. And then there was, that was one of the parts I really enjoyed. And because I'm throwing a tea at the Assembly Hall, I actually was really interested in where the inception of porcelain came from China. They had a whole Japanese exhibit, but what I've learned is that there was a little exhibit there from the Victorian and the Edwardian area, and porcelain originated in China, and it came over with European explorers, and that's afterwards silversmiths. They started to develop tea sets for the Victorian and Edwardian area for the wealthy. But anyways, I like that part of it. I could not go into the B exhibit because with a general admission, it was actually extra. And so after I went through the entire exhibit, and I spent about an hour there, and I think a lot of you know is that how I spend my money is according to how our Heavenly Father tells me to spend my money. So when I get money and I pray about it, and I say, God, Heavenly Father, where do you want me to spend the money? How much money can I spend here? How much money can I spend here? And how much money can I spend here? Well, I was blessed. Heavenly Father said, take $70 down to the ROM. And I was so excited because I never have money to spend. It's very hard getting a job still. So I bought a daisy lavender lang scarf. And I bought a green ROM bag. So, and then I went to McDonald's. That's across the street on Bloor Street there. Bloor Street West, I believe, yeah. Yeah, and that's because my last posting, I spoke about my spiritual daughter who had left this earth. Well, it's actually been all 4 spiritual sons and daughters, 3 spiritual daughters, and 2 spiritual sons have left this earth. But when I talk about green and I talk about how green is healing, and I've allowed the way I heal and the way I grieve is privately, and our Heavenly Father, how He heals me is through, usually at night, or usually when I rest, when I sleep. Um, that's how I heal, and that's how I am healing and continuing to heal in regards to all of that. There has been a lot of conversation that I've heard. Oh, and after leaving the ROM, I had fully intention going down to Mimico Park there. They had the what was it? They had some a festival down there for Canada Day, but it was way too hot. I cannot be out in this weather. It was 42 degrees out, and I had left really early at around 10, and I got there at 11. And by the time I got back, it was like 1 or 2, and it was still. I was exhausted basically. But being out in the heat is something that I cannot do for a certain amount of time. So I wanted to go with that Mimico Canada Day festivities. Actually, I understand that there's like a Caribbean market happening within the next couple of weeks, so I'd like to go down. I wanted to go down to the Easter festivities, but I couldn't go out. It was unsafe for me to go out. So that's basically another thing I would like to say is I hope everyone had a safe and happy Canada Day, celebrating our nation's birthday and celebrating the fact that we are free in this nation, and celebrating the fact that we have so many resources and so many things open to us as refugees and immigrants come to this country. They openly we can recognize that not only do we have natural resources, but we have resources. Just being able to go to one of the richest cities in the world, and I've said this over and over again. And I've said this actually when I went up to City Hall. We live in one of the richest cities and one of the richest nations of the world, and we have a privilege to welcome refugees and to welcome immigrants to this country. And not only that, we do have the resources to offer those who are like myself, who are still food insecure, and like myself, who are who I was housing insecure, but I am no longer housing insecure. But we have that privilege to have the resources to offer help to them. We have the privilege and we have the abilities in this country to offer free education. And I'm big on education. It doesn't matter how old you are. People know that I'm big on the library. I'm taking out most of the cookbooks right now, but I'm big on education. I'm big on elementary education, secondary, and post-secondary education, any type of post-secondary education, college, apprenticeship, university, any type of that education. And then continuing education as you get older and you need to upgrade. I'm big on just education as a whole, and being able to have those doors open to people who come to this country in horrible situations. The other thing, that we are a nation of freedom of religion and freedom of speech. The religion that we have in this country was based on the explorers who came. They came as well for freedom of religion. Most people come for freedom of religion, to be able to express themselves in their culture, in their religion, and in the way they dress. And I see it all over Facebook about how we should ban certain things and certain aspects. I mean, yes, certain things should be banned if they cause a disturbance, if they're illegal, or if if they result in crimes. Certainly, most certainly, that's because we need to have that freedom to be able to move freely about this country in safety. And but we are in a country that has freedom of religion, freedom to be able to speak about what we want. And as of yet, and I've spoken about this before, is that because my postings go back to as far as May 2024. So that's just over 2 years now. There are no laws, federal or provincial or municipal laws, that state that you cannot say on say what you want on YouTube or any type of social media outlet. However, YouTube has certain standards that they go by, that you have to go by YouTube standards, as well as Instagram and Facebook. Um, so that so we do have that freedom of speech. We see it all over the place. We see rallies, we see parades, we see certain days dedicated to certain cultures or certain people groups or certain communities. We see months, like the month of June was dedicated, it was Pride Month. We have February is Black History Month. We have Asian Month. So we celebrate that. I hope I'm not getting it wrong. We celebrate each community, and we do that in Canada because that is what our nation was birthed, and that is what our nation was built upon. When I was in school, the nation was known as, Canada was known as a melting pot. I don't know if it's known as that or taught about that anymore, but we are known as a melting pot because back in the 1960s, we were still part of the Commonwealth. So, and we were still part of the Commonwealth until I believe it was 1980, 82. It was during when Pierre Trudeau was the Prime Minister and Queen Elizabeth came over, and we kind of separated ourselves in a sense from the Commonwealth of Britain. So we did not. We still have the Governor General, which is a representation, obviously, of the Crown, but we're not as such under the ruling of the Commonwealth, under the ruling of Queen Elizabeth, under the ruling of King Charles. We're not under that ruling anymore. We were, but as Commonwealth countries, we're no longer a Commonwealth country. We have the Governor General is, she makes decisions. I want to say she's a figurehead. I do not know exactly what she does, but we've had really a lot of really good Governor Generals in this country. And we have a good, as well as the fact as our country can be celebrated not only for our government, we have freedom of speech. We have the freedom to vote in who we want to and who we don't want to. I was taught as a child that there are some things that came out of my childhood. I was taught as a child to have an education is paramount. I was taught as a child that once you reach a voting age, if you do not vote for a person in your political party or vote for prime minister or premier or municipal elections, then you don't have a right and you don't have a voice. See, that gives you the rights and the voice. So becoming Canadian citizens, those who came to our country, becoming Canadian citizens gives you the rights and the voice to vote who you want to be a prime minister, to be your MP in legislative, because we have municipal elections coming up over here in Ward 3. And there will be some elections coming up for the Mayor of Toronto. And I'm praying for Olivia Chow. I love her. She's a wonderful mayor, I believe. And I love Jack Layton as well when he was in politics and with the NDP party. So we have a lot to be thankful for in this country, and we have a lot in this country, even though there is certain things going on politically and economically with the tariffs, and certain things going on politically and with that we're involved in with peacekeeping and certain issues with that. And I was also taught to have a great deal of respect for those who served, not only in the armed forces and the Navy and the Air Force, but my grandfather, he was a member of the Royal Canadian Air Force. So to have an utmost respect for those who serve and protect first responders, Toronto Regional Police, the police forces, the paramedics, and the firefighters in this nation, in this country, in this province. So I do have an utmost respect. So I was taught that as well. I also, I love this country not only for our natural resources, but I love this country for the fact that, I mean, we have the ability to travel for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and you're like in the middle of nowhere, and you go camping and go fishing, and you can experience that which God has actually He's created, and you can experience His creation, and you can enjoy it. So that's actually something that is really, really I love about this nation. I've had opportunity to travel across this nation. I think it's been mentioned before that I've been in Calgary. I was in Calgary for a short time to visit a friend. So I went to Banff National Park and the hot springs. And I have not gone to Manitoba or Saskatchewan. I've flown over those countries, but I haven't gone to them. I've lived out west in British Columbia. I've been to the Lower Mainland, like the Okanagan Valley, and I went to YWAM there. So I lived near Kelowna, and I've been to Kelowna. I lived in Vancouver. I lived in Lower Mainland. Went to Vancouver. I lived in the Lower Mainland, and I went to Christ for the Nations Bible College out there. So I experienced what it was like to live in British Columbia. On the other side of the country, I've traveled by train. I've actually, I've been to Montreal, and I've been to Quebec City. When actually, during the times when we had our referendum back in, I don't know how many years ago was that, but it was like 49 to 50. We had a referendum in Quebec where they wanted to separate from our nation, which they did not, thankfully, because they're as much as part of this country as they are when this country was worth. So I've taken a train out to as far as Nova Scotia to Halifax, and went through New Brunswick, Quebec, New Brunswick. I haven't been to Newfoundland or Labrador. I took a ferry over. Ferry? Yeah, no, we didn't take the ferry. We drove over to Prince Edward Island. And I went to Prince Edward Island and Charlottetown, so I've been experienced that as well. I loved it. It was amazing. And I went around to Halifax, and that was just after the gardens had been, I think it was a hurricane or a tornado. I want to say some of the gardens were destroyed down in downtown Halifax. So, and then I visited the Alexander Keith's Brewery. Yeah. So, and then took the train back into Toronto, and it was the Ocean. That's what I believe it was called, and it was wonderful. So basically, I've been all across this country. I have never, like I said, I've never visited Manitoba or Saskatchewan, and I have never gone up to Nunavut, or Yukon or anything up there, partially because I don't like the cold too much. But we have a wonderful nation in which we live, and I think that we can not only spend one day celebrating it and putting it aside and taking the day off and having fireworks, but we should continuously celebrate those who are Canadian citizens, and those who aren't, those who are living in this country, celebrate it every single day, and be thankful every single day that you live in a country where you can walk down the street and not worry about certain things. I was going to say, because I had met, when I moved to Mississauga, one of the first people I met, they were refugees from the Ukraine. They had just come to Canada, and they had just come in from the Ukraine. And when they just came in from the Ukraine, and this was winter time, and minus 10, minus 15 out, and they would spend hours and hours just going for walks. And the one young woman explained to me, she said the reason why we go for walks is because we can enjoy that freedom of not being able to have to run and worry about being bombed by Russians. So that in itself, you can get another appreciation of what this country is about and how we provide, the privilege of living in this country as a Canadian citizen, being born and raised here. Like I've met refugees escaping genocide from Sudan, and a family from Sudan who explained to me where they came from and what happened to them as well. And once again, my Nigerian family, whom I love. And, I think that just recognizing that and getting a different perspective and meeting people who come to this country to seek shelter, to come to this country to begin a new life, who come to this country, such as I'm thinking of my friend from Lebanon, people, not friends, but people I met from Lebanon. I think that that's a celebration in itself, that we can offer that as our nation. Yes, there are a lot of things in the past that we as a nation have really done poorly about. And I can speak about the indigenous community and the residential schools, and I can also speak about other things where the prime minister at the time turned back a boat full of Jewish children who went back and faced the concentration camps during the 1940s. But those are certain stains that can be considered stains on our nation. But our nation as a whole has welcomed in refugees, has welcomed in immigrants, has welcomed in and said, hey, we love to open our doors to you, and this is our country, and we celebrate it. And as Canadian citizens, we should celebrate that as well. So, and as well as FIFA. I'm wearing my FIFA shirt today. I bought it at Winners. See? Winners. I would also like to say, apparently there's this wonderful rumor going around that I'm moving. I'm not moving at all. I will be in the sense of the fact that I'm not moving out of Etobicoke South. I'm in Etobicoke now, as people keep saying, and I'm not moving back to St. Catharines, Niagara. I'm not moving to Hamilton. I'm not moving out anywhere. Those who are perpetrating these lies are actually doing it because they've been trying to get me to move and defame my character and pull job applications and tell lies all over the place. So we know who they are, they know who they are, and the police know who they are, so that's good. But one of the reasons why I have little furniture is my shades and my bed and everything like that is mostly because of the fact that these individuals who are perpetrating these lies are actually individuals who are saying, well, no, don't give her the money until she moves back to St. Catharines or she moves to Hamilton. Now, I will say this. I spent the better part of my adult life from the age of 19 to the age of 50. How old was I when I moved? It was probably 53 in St. Catharines. I got an education in Niagara-on-the-Lake at the Niagara College, where I did my hotel restaurant management. I went to high school, Dennis Morris High School in St. Catharines, and I lived in Grimsby, and I was raised in Grimsby. I worked for the YMCA of St. Catharines for, I would say, about 10 years, maybe longer. I worked for Real Canadian Superstore for 3 years. I worked for the Grapeview Daycare for a good year and a bit, maybe 2. And I worked at Sitel, and then I worked before I went on ODSP. And then I also worked at Great Wolf Lodge, and for a couple of months. And then, I won't be going back to Niagara. Niagara doesn't hold very many good memories anymore, because I have a lot of lies that my whole entire existence down there was based on lies and based on people buying people off to be friends, or people threatening people who were my friends. I'm finding out that these people who were my friends weren't really my friends down there, and that a lot of people down there were given money to get information from me, for me, and for others, and others being my biological family, like Ed and Marie, who no longer are, Marie's no longer on this earth. Ed, I don't know where he is. And I choose not to know where he is as well. It's not that there's anything wrong with St. Catharines as a city. There's not that there's anything wrong with Niagara as a region. I haven't been back there since I left, so it would be 2 years now. And I don't wish to go back. It's dangerous for me to go back. I have no friends down there who, and the friends I do have down there haven't sought me out, so I don't know. If they choose to seek me out, then they choose to seek me out. They haven't, and so that's the way it is, I guess. It's our Heavenly Father says things are in your life for a season, a reason, and a lifetime. So I think they were both a season and a reason. So Hamilton, Hamilton is where my Ed's niece and nephew lives. Well, he lives in Brampton, so wish I didn't even know. I thought he lived in Caledonia. So they lived out that way in Waynflete, Hamilton area. I went to Mohawk College for early childhood education, and that was the only time I thought about moving to Hamilton because I was gonna move there before I started college, and they didn't have a residence at the time, so I was gonna move into an apartment there with friends, but it didn't work out. So that was the only time I thought. And the only reason I would never think about living in Hamilton. I don't like Hamilton as I don't know Hamilton. I know Hamilton, the escarpment up there, but I don't like the city of Hamilton, and that's okay. Like, I mean, people don't like the city of Toronto. It's allowed, so I don't like it. I prefer Etobicoke, and when I do move, I will be moving. I'm looking around here in Etobicoke South, and I love Etobicoke. I just love being in this area. I love Lakeshore Village. I love Mimico Village. I love the businesses here. I love the people here. I love my neighborhood. I love my neighbors. I love Daily Bread Food Bank. I love the Assembly Hall. I love the ability to volunteer with Princess Margaret, and I'm so close, and I will be volunteering for the walk. And it's just, that's the way it is now. And for people who are saying that those, it's actually really funny because now they're continuing going on. No, she's moving. That's why she has no furniture. Well, the reason why I have no furniture is because people say I'm moving, so don't give her any money until she moves. There's timeline, so apparently they have up until July 27th, or else certain people will be charged because it's written down. And when the enemy writes things down, when they're written down on contracts, which is from a lawyer is a contract, it's a binding contract, it's a legal document, and the enemy loves the law. And because the enemy has to obey the laws, not only do these people like Ed, like Dan Van He, and Ed Verhaven have to obey the laws of the land, they have to obey the laws that was written down by the lawyers. And they say July 15th for one, and July 27th for another. They can't surpass it any longer because it was a 2-year mark for me living in the GTA, for me to be able to go back to get me back into St. Catharines, Niagara. Well, the 2-year mark, it's like 2.5 years now. So it's surpassed. 2.5, February, March, April, May, June, July. Yeah. So 2 and a bit. Anyway, so that's everything, and I hope once again you are enjoying your weekend. And if you're not supposed to be out in the heat, really, if you can't stand the heat, stay in cooling areas. There are cooling areas around. Go to a mall, ride a bus if you get too overheated, and sit in the air conditioning and then get off. Sorry, TTC, I don't mean to say that. But I love the TTC. Thank you so much for allowing me to go where I need to go, and I love. Thank you so much for the drivers and for everything they do, as well. The drivers of subways, streetcars, and buses, and the Metrolink, as well as the GO Transit. That's about it, and have a wonderful day.